us right now Representative Keith Ellison, who says cutting spending will hurt the economy. He's a Democrat from Minnesota who heads the Progressive Caucus, and he did vote against the bill yesterday. Congressman Ellison, good to have you here with us. Why did you vote against this bill?
Because it's a retractionary measure right on the heels of a recession, still 9.2% unemployment. What we need to do is focus on jobs. The more people working, the more taxpayers, and that is effective deficit reduction. This, I think, takes us in another direction, which I think was unfortunate. But the good thing is now we can focus on jobs. Now this thing is behind us, and we can focus on putting America back to work.
What do you think happened in this process here? What happened to the president? Many people think, or some people think he surrendered. He just gave up on everything. What happened?
Well, you know what? I think the president was dealt a tough hand to begin with, and he was negotiating with some people who were willing to have America default on our creditors. And so when you're dealing with somebody who's willing to drive you over the cliff, it's not very easy to negotiate with those people. I don't fault the president at all, but I do think that the president needs to turn the attention to getting America back to work, and it needs to happen right now. We need an infrastructure bank. We need to get those folks back to work. We need an FAA bill. It's a shame that we're going out and there are 4,000 people who are not going to be working because we didn't pass an FAA reauthorization. That's a shame, too.
Let me ask you, because you say right now that the economy can't afford government spending, but a defeat could have had worse consequences. I mean, that's your basic premise here.
My basic premise is we should look. Here's the thing. Yes, a default would have had dramatic consequences, but that doesn't mean that this deal is what I think America needs now, or what America actually needs now. What America needs now is to put people back to work. We have slack, inadequate aggregate demand. That's the problem with the economy. Why is demand inadequate? Because people aren't working and they're unemployed and they're afraid. So we need to put people back to work. That's the way to get this economy moving. Now, here's the thing. I didn't vote for this deal because it conflicted with my basic values and what I think this country ought to do. Well, but the fact is we couldn't allow a default. That goes without saying.
Well, the other thing is, many would argue that, we've got to get our fiscal house in position. We talked with Bill Gross. We've talked with others, Peter Orszag this week. We've talked with our own Bloomberg Business Week, Peter Coy, and that the deficit numbers that we focus on don't even tell the whole story, that we're in a much worse fiscal situation, especially if you start looking at all those entitlement programs down the road and what it's going to cost our government. So we didn't really have a choice. We had to do some of these spending cuts. You don't think that's a strong enough argument?
I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I think that we do need to deal with deficit reduction, but I think the best way to do that is put Americans back to work, get that $2 trillion in corporate earnings into the invested so that we can start building stuff that America needs. And of course we need to do some deficit reduction. That means cuts too. But the fact is, not now, at this time. Right now, we need more fiscal engagement. That's what I think the federal government should be doing.
So, Representative Ellison, I'm hearing fiscal engagement. What does that mean? What would be your specific plan to get Americans back to work here?
I'm so glad you asked. Let's start with an infrastructure bank bill that can get major infrastructure projects going. According to the American Society of Civil Engineers, we got $2 trillion worth of maintenance that needs to be done on the roads, bridges, broadband, transit ways of America. This could be a massive jobs program, and we need the work done. So the fact is that, look, we are relying on our grandparents' infrastructure. My city 4 years ago had a bridge fall into the Mississippi River because of inadequate maintenance.
Right.
If we put our energy into this kind of thing, we'd have something to show for it, and we'd have people working.
Hey, we got to run. Representative Ellison, thank you so much.